Excellent. I think we are live now. I can see people are joining, which is amazing. Hello, everyone. Greetings from the UK. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Dagina Wetherill, and I'm the Director of Recruitment at InUni UK Division, a company within Global University Systems overseeing international students recruitment for a number of our UK partner universities. And today I'm extremely excited to talk about one of our premium partner university, beautiful Canterbury Christchurch University. And you can see Canterbury Cathedral in my background. Today specifically, we will be talking about School of Creative Arts and Industries, and you can see it here as well. It's one of the new buildings within the university. A lot of investment went into it, and I love visiting it. There are lots of arts things happening, arts gallery as you enter, and it always changes. There's lots of works from students as well, which our colleagues will be talking about later on. And today I'm excited to be joined by colleagues from the university. So if we move on to the next slide, Arjun, please. Okay.
There is a bit of lag, I guess.
Yeah, maybe you can just stop sharing and then start it again, would be great. Okay, excellent. Well, whilst you're doing that, just a few housekeeping rules before we start. You're all on mute. If you do have any questions, feel free to raise them at the Q&A section. So that's Q&A section and not the chat section, please. So we'll take them from there at the end. Other than that, sit back and enjoy, and hope you find this webinar really, really useful. Today, I have my colleagues from the School of Arts here. So we have Miranda, Dr. Alan, we have Andy and Panas, who will be presenting on various courses at the School of Creative Arts. Oh, we have the presentation back here as well. Excellent. So we have Dr. Alan Meadows, Principal Lecturer in Games Design course, and also course director for the games design. We met Dr. Alan last time we visited with a group of our partners at the university, and also met his lovely students, and we were speaking about games and design programs as well. We have Dr. Andy Hest here, course director for performing arts and bachelor's in musical and theatre production. We have Miranda Hutton, who is course director for bachelor's in photography, and Dr. Panas Gikas, I hope I pronounced it correctly, course director for bachelor's in creative music production and technology. We also have Stephen here, who you may already know because he joins most of our webinars, and he oversees international students recruitment and partnerships at Canterbury Christchurch University. And we have my colleagues from InUni team, Ankita, Arjun and Anas, who help us to run this webinar. So I'm sure you find this webinar really, really inspiring and exciting, and I hope you all enjoy it. So sit back and enjoy, and it's over to Panas, please.
Hi, everyone. I am Panas Gikas, and I am the course director for one of the 3 subject areas in music, which is the BA Creative Music Production and Technology. So music has 3 strands. One is BA Commercial Music, the Creative Music Production and Technology, and the BA Music, confusingly also called music, apart from just it being the whole thing music. So I will explain what these 3 areas are. So could we move on to the next page? So this page just places music within the creative arts and industry. So the building that you saw, the photo, houses all or some of these subjects here. And in music, we try very hard to collaborate with as many people as possible. So there's already collaborations happening with the games design, with graphic design, with film, radio, and TV, and performing arts and drama, and dance and education. So we have multiple types of sort of informal collaborations, and students try to meet with others and make interdisciplinary projects, collaborative projects. But so music sits within this, and it basically shows that in that building, in that area of the university, there's a creative hub of many different disciplines, which are quite exciting, and students are able to sort of meet each other and sort of inspire each other. So let's move on to the next page. So this goes now into this sort of quite dry grid, which is describes what the BA commercial music is. In a nutshell, commercial music is a bachelor's degree which focuses on popular music performance and composition in some sense. So the focus is on understanding the principles of performing as a solo artist in collaboration and within different areas which are emerging, which is working for screen and working with online applications. If you look at the bottom part of the bottom row, it says Introduction to Performance, Performance for Stage, and then it moves to the second row in the second year, which is Performance for Stage and Screen, Advanced Performance, and then Professional Studio Practice, and Music for Audiences. And if anyone who's interested in doing performance and learning how to play in a band, learning how to work in the industry as a performer in the popular music sphere mainly, will get a lot of tutoring from professional performers who are otherwise out there in the music industry doing their own sort of practice. So a lot of what you get in the commercial music is industry-based experience, people who come in, and people who study this course are able to actually get one-to-one tutoring in every semester in every single year. So if you have a first instrument that you'd like to develop, this is a course where you'd have vocalists, guitarists, any kind of instrumental discipline that will support you all through. The same thing applies to the BA music, about which I'll discuss later. So there is a focus on understanding the basics of theory and notation, but there's also a very, very important focus on understanding how we use new technologies to actually do what is happening right now in the industry, which is that even if you are a performer, purely performer, you really are expected to be able to use music technology in computers and apps to record, produce, document, and promote your work. So we start with level 4, which is the first year, and there's a module called Computer Audio Production Essentials, and that's where people learn using Logic on Macs. We've got 3 iMac suites with 30 iMacs each, and students are able to go and use the software and understand how to make arrangements, how to make their own songs, and how to create various sort of types of styles. I just wanted to say that in terms of the style, I mentioned popular music, but actually the whole of music is kind of style agnostic, which means that we don't have a very, very strict focus on a specific genre or style. So there are people who come in who play in heavy metal bands, people who are purely drummers and just want to learn how to be a session drummer in anything from a jazz band to anything to do with be a percussionist in a classical ensemble, to people who write sort of chart music, electronic, EDM. So we are very open to any kind of style and really aim to support everyone's sort of aim in what they want to be themselves within the music industry. So we have the performance element, we have the music technology element, and there's also an element which is about understanding about the context in which the music takes place. So understanding the history, understanding why we're choosing what we do. So modules like music in context and working in music give us an understanding of where our music is placed within the professional world and why we choose to do what we choose to do, what has happened before before our practice, what is happening right now, who are the people who are influencing how music develops, how music happens, and where is music going. So there are a number of strands people can go. You can actually really focus on performance, and there's songwriting. So songwriting happens every year, where we have people who are actually professional songwriters, performers, people who also work in bands, who are producers, and they really are able to help people develop their skills so that by the third year, you're able to produce something which is at a very, very competent level, comparable to what we hear in the charts, comparable to what we hear in the industry. Basically, that's the aim. The other strands that we have here relate to performing. So performing for audiences, learning how to be a tour musician, how to be a performer on stage, performer on the radio, performer on TV, performer in the studio. And there's another strand which relates to music for screen, and that is something that everyone from every strand is expected to be able to choose and develop if they want. So we learn about how to develop music as a performer and as a composer, using music technology and our instruments that will work with adverts, with music for online content and film. So I guess this summarizes the commercial music in a nutshell. The last thing I wanted to say is that there's the Independent Commercial Music Project, which is at the top right. And that's a whole year project. That's where people are expected to actually realize their actual musical dreams as musicians at that time. So it could be that you want to record an album. It could be that you really want to set up a proper performance with your own band. It could be that you have a whole film soundtrack to write. You found a film student that you can collaborate with. So that's a whole year project. And of course, there's tutorials happening very regularly, and there's complete support. And of course, all this is happening within facilities that have studios, rehearsal spaces, very, very high quality, professional level studio equipment to record, microphones, and all the technical support that's needed. So let's move on to the next page. So this is the creative music production and technology. And if you look at the grid, it shares a lot with the commercial music, but it focuses a lot more on the studio and on music technology. So if you look at the top line in this grid, you will see that the core focus is learning how to record in the studio, how to use the studio. The aim is that students in year one will come in and very, very quickly are able to book the studios, set them up, and bring people in to record. Towards the end, as you can see, there are modules like professional studio practice and music for audiences and independent music project, which again, for people wanting to study this this music subject, will be able to engage in more technology-based sort of projects, such as even designing a digital audio workstation, designing a synthesizer, designing an effects pedal, working with other musicians to create a complex technologically live performance that combines different types of technology and analog and digital gear. Of course, a lot of people actually just come with their bands, and a lot of people are composers and songwriters, and they really want to actually come in and be able to know how to use all that technology that's available, the new technology that are emerging, to be able to be the people who write the music. So this actual subject is very much about people who are excited about writing music and feel that they really need some guidance as to how to develop that individual voice. As you can see, there's common threads regarding the songwriting strand. There's also media music and film music. And of course, there's a focus on also areas related to synthesizers, digital synthesis, and areas which relate to further down at the corner of this grid, which says sound and music for games and interactive media. And this is like a forward-looking module at the end where students are really expected to understand how to use technologies emerging now. That could be AI, which is already being used in programs, and also surround sound, music for games, interactive music, everything that's actually going to be very much required by all this content and all this new technology that's been developed. Is there anything else I want to discuss in this? Is that there are overlaps with the commercial music course, and what happens is that people in this subject have priority in accessing the studio. They're always prioritized in terms of being able to record, and we have two very, very high-end studios with amazing mixers and external hardware and a lot of software. At the same time, we have 3 iMac rooms where there is all the software that is required for everyone to complete their coursework. So people can actually, even without their own laptop, just turn up and book spaces and go in and use everything at their disposal to make the music that they want to. The last thing I want to say about this is that we really want to make sure that people leaving the course don't leave the course without actually having the tools to know how they will continue. So people learn how to work in the studio, and studios are very expensive, but also learn how to work in the box. And working in the box means, can you actually be a good producer? Can you actually write music just using your laptop? So we really focus on this kind of thing, and we focus on independence. And so being able to be mobile and flexible and provide your own individual ideas without depending on big budgets. Could we move on to the next page, please? So this is the BA music, and actually this relates to a more classical strand. So it kind of overlaps a little bit with production, but actually much more with commercial music. But it focuses on notated music and also in classical performance. So again, what we've got here is opportunities to perform in various venues. We have in Canterbury, Christchurch, we have various venues, including the cathedral itself, which is a UNESCO heritage place and a huge venue for us where we can actually have performances. There are other lovely venues on campus where the BA music students are able to perform. And at the same time, these students are also given the opportunity to engage in film music and media music, but also be able to prepare a portfolio. That could be a range of performances on their instrument or a range of concerts that they can do recitals. Otherwise, BA music shares sort of content with the other courses. So I would just leave that there. The other thing that I would say about BA music is that there are areas of specialization which are slightly different, and these are related to music psychology, and also the one which relates to on the right hand side in the year 3, which focuses on music for therapy and well-being, and that can be a very interesting springboard towards possibly postgraduate study focusing on music therapy and music for well-being, which is also an emerging area now, especially with new technologies. So if we could please move on to the next page. The next pages have mostly images, and I will be so these are just examples of students performing. We have in a few weeks a end of year show. It was going to run over 2 or 3 days, and we will have students performing in different groups, different ensembles, performing other people's music or their own songs. It takes a lot of preparation, and some of these also have also been assessed performances. So people are given the chance to perform in front of large audiences, and they're given the chance to actually even try different kinds of instruments if they feel that they can actually perform these on the stage. They are very, very important experiences for everyone because they bond everyone together, but also they are a big test for what it feels like to perform in the outside world in big stages. So if we move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is related to the BA music, and this is one of them is a vocal ensemble. Below we can see there's an organist, and that relates to various opportunities that students get to expose themselves to different types of skills and visiting performers and artists. If we move on to the next page. So this is one of our studios. You can see that we have an analog console, which is ideal for students to work on. It's an inline console. You can see that we have Logic and a array of different speakers. The small speakers are part of a 5.1 system, so students can learn how to do 5.1 mixing. And the big speakers in the back are large mastering speakers. So this is the room where our year 3 students are actually ready to master and complete their projects, which eventually will go on websites and go on demos that they will send to labels. So if we move on from this. So these are examples of people who have gone on to do really well. They've finished our courses and they are doing very, very well for themselves. And also they come back and talk to our students. So we've got Brendan Grieve, who actually was music director and bassist for Sam Smith. And we have Jenna Donnelly, who also, after finishing, also taught in our course, taught in various courses, and actually is now a very established singer and songwriter who works with K-pop and works with various clients, as you can see there. And on the left-hand side, we have a production student called Luke Olney, and Luke actually works with Spitfire Audio and is essentially someone who works in a company that develops samples for the film industry, so film music. All these people finished here. They got the opportunity actually to develop their work, and some of them got internships and were able to develop their skills further. If let's look at the next page, please. Oh, these are further musicians. These are performers. Some of these people have gone on to play with a number of quite well-known artists. And what I would like to say is that not only we have people that leave and do quite well, but we also bring some of these people, a lot of these people, back to talk during in the context of employability modules. So our students are able to not just find out how well someone did, but actually find out the journey and how it worked for them leaving the course and going outside. Okay, let's move on to the next. I think that's it from me. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions later.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Panos, for really, really useful information. And I love the facilities, they look amazing. Okay, so we are over to the next section. So I think it's over to Andy, please.
Thanks and hello everyone. It's great to be talking to you about the Performing Arts suite of courses. My name's Andy Hurst and I'm the course director for the Performing Arts suite. And as you can see, the Performing Arts suite consists of our BA Honours Performing Arts, BA Honours Musical Theatre and BA Honours Theatre Production. They are 3 distinct degree courses. An umbrella course. It looks at the entire industry as opposed to just the performing element of the performing arts. We also look at the management side, we look at the production side, and we also explore analysis and meaning within performance as well. Musical theatre is obviously a subset of the performing arts, so 90% of what you will be studying on the musical theatre degree is centred around musical theatre, the development of musical theatre performance skills, but also understanding their position within our societies. We do like to expand that a little bit as well, so you'll be sharing some modules with the performing arts degree. And again, theatre production is another subset of the performing arts umbrella. focusing on everything that you need to understand to run and operate live performance. So pretty much everything apart from the actual performance element of a live performance. Okay, if we could go on to the next slide, please. So you can see here, this little photograph that we have on the right-hand side was a performance from our end-of-year musical that we try and do every single year. It's a large-scale full performance that we put on. I believe this was Zombie Prom that we did a couple of years back, or just before the lockdown, in fact. And that takes place in our main studio theatre space, Anselm Studio 1. It's a full 85-seat studio theatre with full lighting rig, sound system, projection facilities, all that kind of thing. You can see on the left-hand side, basically the three areas that we focus on within our performing arts suite, within all of our courses. The practice of performance. So for those of you that are performers, you will get instruction in singing, in acting and dance. For those people that are more interested in the production side of things, then of course we look at technology and design. Reading performance, then it is a degree. All of these are degree courses, so we need to develop graduate skills and skills of analysis, discussion. So we look at how performance fits within our communities. We explore the voice that performance can have and how it can impact on politics and make points about our societies. And finally, of course, making performance. Anybody really who's interested in performing arts wants to create live performance in some way, be that as a manager, as a performer, as a designer, or as a technician. So we make sure that we work towards actually producing and presenting live performance as well. Okay, if we move on to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, graduate skills, i.e. those skills that are really seen as being incredibly valuable in the workplace. All of the modules that we offer will include elements of these transferable skills that you have here. Much of what we do is based in group work, being able to understand how to work effectively in a group environment, communicate effectively, set goals, set targets, work with people, build relationships. Understanding each individual role within a team is incredibly important. But of course, all of this takes stamina, confidence, self-discipline, communication, time management. So everything that you do within our courses really are developing these range of transferable skills, which are incredibly important to all employers. Much of what we do on our courses is based around employability. Yes, many of the students that come onto our courses want to be performers, and certainly we have had success in that area. But there are a lot of different areas that students get exposed to while doing our courses that lead them down a different pathway. So just because you're doing a degree in performing arts doesn't necessarily mean you have to stay within that particular area when you're looking for work. Being able to explore and have access to a wide range of jobs and careers in the broader creative arts industry is also something that we're keen to foster. Could I have the next slide then, please? So here are just a few examples of where our recent graduates have ended up. You can see then that we've had a number of our production students going on to work in the West End. You can see there that we currently have people working on The Lion King. If we just go a little bit further down, we have people working at Matilda in the West End as well. We seem to do a lot of business getting people jobs on cruise ships. Of course, cruise ships will have possibly several performance spaces, all that need performers and all that need crews and managers. And so you can see here, we've had company managers go on to Royal Caribbean Cruises as well as technicians. Just recently, we found out that one of our recent graduates, Anna Santos, has just landed a part in the Sky production, A Town Called Malice. I believe that's just been started to be broadcast. And then a little bit further down, you can see that people have started getting into producing work both at local venues, the Quarter House that we have here in Folkestone in the UK, and programme coordinator of the Canterbury Festival. The Canterbury Festival is a large international arts festival, and one of our recent graduates is the current programme coordinator for that organisation. We also have people then moving on to do postgraduate study, MA, Masters of Arts, postgraduate certificates in education. Quite a number of our students want to come in and do our degree specifically with the aim of going on to teach. And indeed, we have had students carrying on to do research work and PhDs as well. Okay, next slide, please. So this slide just gives you an overview of the first year modules that you'll have access to. Performing arts on the left, theatre production in the middle, and musical theatre on the right hand side. We do share modules, but we'll just have a quick look at this. I'm then going to go on and look at slides that have the entire degree for each, but I'm not going to go through those in great detail. I'll just put them up on the screen. You can take a screenshot of them if you want. And it's probably worth mentioning that if you go onto our course web pages, so if you just do a search for CCCU Performing Arts, you'll get access to a small description of all of the modules that we've got here. So I'll go through these in a little bit of detail, but then you can look at years 2 and 3 in a little bit more detail by going straight to those web pages. So you can see here that we operate across a semester system. Semester 1 runs from the end of September through to mid-January. And those weeks in January are your assessment periods. And then we start teaching semester 2 at the beginning of February, and we run through to the end of May. And again, that May period are your assessments for the modules that you've done in semester 2. So for performing arts, you can see that in each semester you have a performance techniques module. This is where you'll be given instruction in acting and singing and dance. Not everyone is fantastic at all 3. So you will be able to choose your 2 highest discipline marks there. So you may choose to focus on acting and singing, or dance and acting, for example. And you get a different style each semester. So semester 1, we focus on jazz style and musical theatre style. But semester 2, you might focus on contemporary style dance. You might focus on blues singing. And you might focus on a different type of acting, Meisner technique, naturalism, for example. We then have Introduction to Stagecraft. You will notice that Introduction to Stagecraft appears on each of the level 4 offer here. So they're shared across all of our courses, Performing Arts, Theatre Production and Musical Theatre. And basically it's an introduction to a little bit of lighting, a little bit of sound, costume design, makeup, that kind of thing. It leads towards a very visual performance that you put together. And then Introduction to Theatre Design for the Performing Arts Level 4. Again, that's a little bit more in detail, looking at the design process, talking about costume design, and talking about object design for the stage. In semester 2, we have Introduction to Theatre and Society, which explores the ways in which the performing arts can impact on society. And then finally, we have Company 1, where all of the performing arts students come together with the production students to form a performance company, and it's about devising and creating a new piece of live performance work. So you can see theatre production level 4, year 1. It's quite similar in that you share Introduction to Stagecraft, Introduction to Theatre in Society, and Company 1, and Introduction to Theatre Design. But the 2 unique modules there that take out the performance style modules that performing arts have is Introduction to Performance Sound and Introduction to Performance Lighting, really getting to grips with the hardware and the software and the techniques to start to be able to contribute to the development of live performance from a live sound and a lighting perspective. And then finally, musical theatre. It's a little bit more unique musical theatre. We do share Introduction to Stagecraft with the other 2 courses, but you'll notice then that there are 3 separate modules that relate to acting, singing, and dancing. Dancing with confidence, singing with confidence, acting with confidence. That's not to say that you aren't already confident actors, singers, dancers, but it's about developing confidence in a new environment with a new peer group, with new tutors, and having that confidence to express yourself, explore new disciplines, and be able to communicate with confidence to both your peers and indeed an audience. Reading musical theatre is really an historical exploration of the form of musical theatre. And finally, Musical Theatre Showcase is a module that puts on and works towards a live evening at the musicals that is open to family and friends to come and see what you have been doing throughout your first year. Okay, so that's your first year for each of the 3 courses. If we could just go on to the next slide. Like I say, I won't talk through all of this, but if you wanted to just take a quick shot of that, either with your phone or with a screen grab, you can go onto our main website. At each of these other modules, then you will get a brief description of what they all are. I'm hoping they'll be pretty easy to understand just through the names. Those areas that are highlighted in pink offer you options, so you can choose either or. So there's an element of being able to individualize your degree. So if we just move on to the next slide, here is the musical theatre full degree breakdown that we've got here. So again, just take a quick screen grab of that. And again, lots of these option modules are shared with the performing arts degree and the theatre production degree. So you will be constantly working with students on those other courses. You won't be just sitting there in your own little musical theatre silo, as it were. And finally, if we can have the theatre production degree on the next slide, please. There we go, a little bit more prescriptive here, not as many options for the full theatre production degree, because it really is focused on those areas that you need to fully understand to be able to graduate and then find work within the performing arts industry as a technician, as a lighting designer, as a sound operator. We look at live projection mapping as well, things like that. So functional skills that will enable you to find employment and develop your career in that area. Okay, next slide, please. Over to Alan. Thank you very much, and I'll answer questions later on. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Andy. Really interesting information, and it's great to see your students and graduates going into amazing jobs and obviously having great careers. It's a really good point you mentioned about employability and the emphasis on employability within Canterbury Christchurch University. And just to remind to everyone, CCCU is actually in top 3 in the UK for graduates going into employment in the UK as per the HISA graduate outcomes stats 2022. So it's very, very recent stats. So it's great to see our students and graduates finding amazing jobs. Okay, so it's over to Alan. Thank you.
Hello, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, should we say first slide, please? Let's move forward and see what I've done. Excellent. Okay, before I really start, I want to introduce myself. So my name is Dr. Alan Meads. I'm Principal Lecturer in Games Design. I'm Suite Lead for Graphic Design and Photography and Games Design. And I'm Course Director for Games Design at Christchurch. So yeah, I've got some slides to talk through. But really, before I get into that kind of stuff, what I want to say is that it's a fantastic opportunity to talk with you. And that on our course on games design, we really care about international students. So I was talking with Stephen earlier on, and our ambition is to have about 1/3 of our students be international students from lots of different perspectives. We already have quite a few international students, but what we find is that international students bring a completely different perspective to their studies and to the cohort, and they completely enrich the experience. So we really value international students, and yeah, we want to ensure that our course is welcoming and that yeah, it's somewhere that you would want to come. So to give you some idea about games design, we have BA Hons, a degree in games design. We have a foundation year in games design. We have MAs in games design. We have PhDs in games design. So we run all the way through from students that are really uncertain or need some support in getting into their studies, all the way through to doctors. In fact, this week, my PhD student who was doing his PhD in games design had his Viva and passed it. So we've got doctors of games design coming through Christchurch. Saying that, the games design course is only 5 years old. I wrote it with a colleague of mine, and it's become really, really popular, and I think a really strong course. It's now the largest, or actually it's the second largest course in the faculty, the largest in the school. So what you can see on the screen here is some examples of student work and some some anecdotes or some accounts from students. But really, what our course is an opportunity for you to learn a diverse set of skills that is relevant to the games industry. Now, we are one of very many different degree courses in the UK in games design. There are some absolutely excellent courses elsewhere at other institutions, and what they tend to focus on is getting people jobs in the AAA games industry, so working for Rockstar Games or Ubisoft or a large company like that. And so what they focus on is very specific high-end skills. And then they might have their 300 graduates that come out of those courses who then have to fight for the jobs that are there. And then the concern is that if you don't get a job in that first year, then your skills deteriorate, they might not be quite so current, and then your opportunities to enter the market diminish each year. So our approach for games design at Christchurch was really quite different. It was to say that there are some requirements from the games industry that are also shared by other creative industries, be that marketing or advertising, be it education and teaching, be it research, all these different things. And so what we do is we teach the core skills for game design, but also essential employment skills for all of these other areas. So what we do is we ensure that our course of delivery supports students in getting jobs when they graduate. Many of them will go into games, but it also means those that are really interested in games as a body of study, but don't necessarily want to enter the industry, can also find places to go. So what can you see here on the screen? Well, what we've got is some excerpts from some third-year games that were featured at the Insomnia Games Festival last month. So third-year games, we have some graphics from a 2D game here on the left. This was a kaiju battling game where essentially you train a load of robots to fight monsters that attack a city. On the right-hand side, we have this orange kind of space robot thing. That's a 3D exploration game. And down in the bottom, we've got some wireframes and some initial drawings of character designs. The expectation is that we are supporting students to make all kinds of different things. And I think Panos or Andy said that their courses were agnostic in the sense that there was no expectation that you had to learn specific tools or specific software. We're the same on games design. Next slide, please. Let's see what mysterious things are on this one. Aha, okay, so yeah, this is what I mean by being agnostic. So we've got some 3D models from a 3D game made in Unity, this blue robot on the left-hand side. So we train our students how to use Unity. We have trained them how to use Unreal. So this image on the top right is a 8-player multiplayer game called Surge Ball. You can buy it on Steam if you want. So our students have released this game that can be purchased. The Blue Robot game is actually a third-year game from this year, and those students have just applied for the UK Games Fund's Transfuser programme, and they're likely to be awarded about £7,500 over the course of the summer to take this into a commercial release. So they're going to be partnered with some people from industry, working alongside us as well. And the idea is that they're going to be fast-tracked into industry. Whether or not their game, it's called Kaiju Kerfuffle, is the thing that goes into industry, and whether or not they just get jobs in studios is yet to be seen. But you can see these are two different 3D engines. Down in the bottom, we've got a VR game that was made a couple of years ago by students, which is essentially a 3D version of the arcade game Rampage. Talking about arcades, I'm the author of the excellent book, Arcade Britannia, which tells the history of the British amusement arcade. That's available with MIT Press, who I think is the best academic publisher in the world. So the idea is that on our course, we teach students how to make games. We get them to engage in research and kind of academic study, and employability is absolutely key to what we do. Next slide, please. Stephen's just messaged me saying that it was a shameless plug, and he's absolutely correct. On the left-hand side, we've got some really high-end cinematic kind of 3D modeling. The kit or the software that we're talking about, I should stress that we don't expect any applicants or any students to have prior experience in their stuff. We start from scratch, and we have a cohort of students that might have musicians and graphic designers and programmers and writers and people that like pure design. So we have a completely diverse range of students. As I said, we have international students alongside students that have been living in Canterbury all of their lives. And the idea is that we get those to find ways of identifying the skills that they want to learn and find ways of working together on projects like these. So yeah, we've got the high-end 3D visualizations. We've got this purple kind of white-eared rabbit character. I don't know if it's a rabbit, but anyway, that character is from an excellent game that was produced last year called Cauliflower Night, a 3D platforming game. The tiny screen grabs are from a top-down 2D shoot 'em up that went through to transfuse a game fund last year. We got funded. The kind of cheetah is from a 2D narrative-based game. So we have lots of students making romance games and kind of narrative-heavy games. And you might think that that's unusual for a games course. You might think it's very kind of masculine and kind of, I don't know, a combat games orientated. We're really not. The idea is that we want to support all kinds of games. And there's enormous growth at the moment in narrative games and romance games. So we do a lot of work about that kind of writing and that kind of design. And then we have another 3D game down at the bottom right, Monsters Overworld, which was produced in Unity. And students are producing every element of this, from the sound to the animations to the characters to the programming. We then get them to market their games, and at the end of the third year, they release them to market, be that on itch.io or on Steam or something like that. Next slide, please. Okay, so you can find all this information out online if you just search on our prospectus pages. But just to give you a quick heads up about the kind of structure that we do, as has been said already, we run over 2 semesters. In our first semester, we introduce discrete skills. So we have a module called Introduction to Game Dev, where we introduce students to programming and tools. It could be Unity, it could be Unreal, but the idea is it's going to be a fairly chunky, fairly difficult programming language or game development engine. We then have Creative Career 1, which is all about employment. It's about working with people, and it's about embedding the core skills of collaboration that are needed in every single creative industry. Our students have to be able to work with one another. They have to be able to take advice. They have to be able to take feedback, and they have to be able to correct their mistakes. And so we embed those skills. There is no place for an individual programmer or designer who doesn't talk to a team. That doesn't work in our industry, and that doesn't really work on our course either. And then we have the best module in the world, which is Introduction to Game Studies, taught by an excellent author and kind of researcher. No, it's an introduction to game studies. So that's the theory that underpins all of our work. So we balance practice with employability with theory as well. Now, in the second semester, our spring semester, we have a pattern where what we have is a double-weighted module where students come together to make games in groups. They create their own small studios, and staff work as producers alongside the students to try and iron out the problems that inevitably appear. So that's Game Development Project 1. Typically, we would use Game Maker Studio there. So a low difficulty 2D engine. We might go on to Godot instead, but the idea is we use an engine to make something that's lo-fi, and it's really about working together in groups. We also have another module like Art, Audio, and Story, which kind of allows students to engage in different kind of creative practices related to games. And it's kind of a pressure release valve from the project work that can be quite intense and quite demanding. Next slide, please. Okay. I was going to have a sip of tea, but I won't. Okay, yeah, our second year uses a similar kind of pattern. So the idea that In the first semester, you have your discrete modules. The second semester, you have your double-weighted project. But the difference is that in your second year, you have several different optional modules. You can specialize in 2D for games, 3D for games, narrative and story for games, or game arts, which is much more about meaning and rhetoric and modding games. So you have this creative practice that you develop, and you also have another careers module where what we do, we get people from the games industry in to work alongside you. And what you do is you look at the industry as well. So if in the first year, the employment was about learning to work with each other, in the second year, you begin to make connections with the industry and understand what the industry looks like and feels like. You then have your larger project in the second semester where you're making something that is more complex. So you might make a doggo game there, which this was a dog exploring an apartment looking for snacks in different areas while their owner was out of the house. So it was a really nice tight kind of maze game and investigation game where you had to avoid your owners and get the treats. And again, you have another fantastic theory module that really tries to prepare students for doing research projects, make them think about doing dissertations in the following year, and perhaps turn some of those students onto the dark side so then they become researchers and interested in doing MAs or PhDs. And really, that's the idea of the second year. So we have a very strong employability strand. We have students developing their own specific skill sets. And all of this is building up to the third year. Next slide, please. And here we go. Think about the third year as, instead of being about individual modules, it's all about the game that you want to make. The game that you've wanted to make for years. The game that you've never had a chance to make because you don't have the skills or you don't have the team. What we do is we make this entire year about you making that game, and then you bring that game to market as a prototype. And so what happens is at the beginning of that year, our students come together and they pitch games to their peers. They say, I'm going to make this game. This is the way that it looks. This is how it's going to work. We use the Amnesia Fortnight pitching process that's used by Double Fine Productions. And essentially, students create teams, production studios to make those games. Unfortunately, it means that if the game that you propose isn't very good, if your peers, your fellow students don't buy into it, you're going to either have to work on that game on your own, or you're going to have to accept that actually you're going to work on someone else's game and then make that kind of come to life. Of course, when you create a new team and you form around a game, that game becomes equally yours as the person that initially started it. So we have this Dragon's Den kind of process where an idea becomes a team idea, becomes a commercial release. So the way that we do that, we have the final major project pre-production module, which is about proposing that game, getting a team around it, building a functional prototype. We then have employability. So we have Creative Career 3, where we have students working with an external client. That could be either a game studio or an exhibition space or something like that. We have the dissertation, so a short 4,000-word dissertation or practical equivalent that students work on. And then as we get to the tail end of that first semester, we bring people in from industry to work with our students. So for the last 2 years, we've had people from Epic Games, specifically Epic Games' subsidiary Mediatonic, who made a really popular game called Fall Guys. We have a senior developer and 2 junior developers from that team who come in and they work with our students as they're making their games. They come in every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks. Our students present their games, present their work in progress, take feedback, start crying, get kind of looked after by the staff, and then they're back up working again. So what we do is in that final year, we model basically a junior year in game development studio. And that's how we end up making the fantastic games that we do. Just to say that our course also is special because whereas other degree courses around the UK where you study games design, in those people tend to make a bit of a game. What we do on our course is we have our students making a whole game or a whole prototype, and that's a completely different thing. I should say, in addition to making these games, we have, as part of this final major project, our students are expected to put them on a commercial marketplace, be that Kickstarter, be it Itch, be it Steam. And what we do is we support students with funding to do all of this as well. So we want our students to get out there, to go around the world, to go around the UK, to go to exhibitions and things like that and show off their games, because that's the way that they enter the industry and become game designers. Next slide, please. It's worth pointing out that in addition to not expecting students to come with us with any kind of concrete expertise, we want them to care about games and have ideas, but they don't need to be programmers or artists or anything specifically. They just need to have that passion and interest and dedication. What we also don't expect them to do is have a £5,000 gaming rig at home. Instead, what we do is that we give each of our students a gaming laptop at the beginning of their studies, at the beginning of their BA studies, so the first year of the undergraduate, and that is theirs to then do their course. So our students have, in the third year, old rickety 3-year-old gaming laptops that squirt steam out of them, but they do keep working and they allow them to make the games that they want to make. Next slide, please. There we go. Thank you very much. That's me done.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alan. Really, really inspiring. I want to study games design now, and congratulations on your book.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. All right. So we're moving on to the next section now, and it's over to Miranda, please.
Hello there. Thank you for inviting me to talk about BA Honours Photography. Can you see me okay?
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you.
Great. Can I have my first slide, please? So on the BA Honours Photography, echoing what Alan said, although I don't have any shameless plugs, I'm afraid, but I should have thought about that. We do welcome a variety of students onto our course, including international students. We have a number of international students on our course as well, but we welcome a variety of perspectives and approaches to photography, different kind of passionate motivations about why people want to be photographers or think photography is their an important visual medium. I'm generally going to be illustrating all of my slides with post or current student work. You can see here that Daniel Loveday is an ex-student who was interested in some of the local areas that he was living in the Medway towns in Kent. Jodie Sherrill graduated last year, and she was really interested in sort of more photojournalism and activism photography. Ellie Wick was much more interested in studio fashion-based photography. So you can already see from these examples that we encourage students from multiple perspectives, and we facilitate those different approaches to photography on our BA photography course. Next slide, please. I just thought I would mention we have 4 dedicated permanent members of staff who are all practicing photographers in terms of commercial work and also research-based work as well. And we all kind of occupy slightly different areas of the photographic field, but we are all very dedicated to the course. The course has been in existence now for 15 years. And we have built very good networks with a very good network within those 15 years. And we have, a very supportive team to enable you to develop your photographic skills. Just as an addition to this, on our course, we also then have other sessional, we call them, who are visiting lecturers from more specialist areas, or if we feel that we need to augment certain modules with specific skills that may be not purely photographic, they may be sort of, outside the photography skill set. We have a number of visiting lecturers or sessional lecturers that we invite into the team as well. So the overall teaching team is varied and experienced. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to jump straight into the modules. As everyone has already said, these are available on the website, but I just wanted to give you an overview of the way that we see you developing on our course. We also operate in a 2-semester system, but the overall first year of your degree course will be level 4. Actually, we also run a foundation course. So for anyone that's feeling like they need to sort of develop some more basic skills before they come onto the degree course, there is a foundation. The main purpose of the level 4 modules is to introduce students to the wide variety of photographic skills that are needed to be a professional photographer. And so we have experimental practices, which enables you to play around in our dark rooms. We have very good facilities here, and I've got some photographs to show you. We have a black and white dark room, we have a color dark room, we have photographic studios. So the first year is very much about sort of developing those initial skills as a photographer, applying them to analog skills if you want to, digital skills. And there's also some research skills thrown in there as well, which I'll talk about in a sec, but the ability to talk about other people's practice, to be able to look and be inspired by other people's work that then informs your own work and your own direction in terms of leaving the course and graduating and getting a career in photography are really important skills. So level 4 is about experimenting to find your way, to see what sort of areas really interest you. Next slide, please. So level 5 is your second year and level 6 is your third year. Level 5 enables you to dig deeper into those technical skills that are required. You can see that there's modules such as expanded photography, which is pushing your skills, perhaps if you feel confident enough using things like moving image, video work. Analog is an optional module, so you have a little bit more variety in terms of choosing which modules you would like to kind of specialize in. And if analog skills is something you wanted to do, then you can develop that further. Curatorial is another example of an optional module. If you were interested in exhibitions, gallery, art buying collection, curatorial studies would also be a very good option choice for you. But you can see also that there's professional collaborations there. And we are in that module asking students to collaborate with outside institutions or professionals to create sort of live briefs that you respond to. So there's a very sort of professional, commercial, employable skill specialist module, that one, which everyone does. So level 5, there's a little bit more sort of choice, higher expectations in terms of technical skills for photography. And then level 6, there is much more sort of independent study where you are really able to hone in the skills that you want to develop individually and specifically to your future career paths. So the major practical project, for example, will be a portfolio based. A lot of the modules are portfolio based, practical kind of requirements for assessment. But the major practical project will be your, a bit like sort of in games design, the body of work that you always wanted to create. And will also be a very important portfolio for you to then go after leave university to go and find kind of future work in that time. Professional practice, again, is looking at your next year's 3-year plan in terms of developing social media profiles, editing your portfolios, making sure that you are communicating to your potential clients the right messages and you are confident with your work. Next slide, please. So the Daphne Aurum is where photography is based, along with games design, music, and graphic design. We have dark rooms, as you can see, and as I've already mentioned, and we have lovely big photography studio spaces. We also have a range of photographic equipment, so a range of 35mm all the way up to large format cameras, and a very wide range of lighting equipment too. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of technical, but also creative skills to develop on the course. Next slide, please. Yes, so the way that we also engage with the outside world and the industry of photography are, is very varied. So on the right there, you can see that there are little posters, and we are constantly inviting professionals in from the industry to come and give talks to our students. Some of them have been online, particularly if they're based, outside of the UK. But others, if they can, will come and sit face to face with the students. And we open this up to all of the suites, whoever would like to join. And it's really interesting having practitioners talk about their work and their own career journeys within photography, because there's never always one straight path in which to develop yourself as a practicing photographer. And on the left here is a recent collaboration we did with the local NHS trust in Canterbury. So they set us a live brief. This was for the year 2 students. And we went out and we photographed them on location, so outside and inside, collecting their stories about their experience of work. In terms of what it will be like when you leave university and work as a photographer, if that's what you end up doing. Next slide, please. At the end of year 2 and the end of year 3, your work will be included in an exhibition. The year 3 show is a celebration of the whole suite, the whole university's work. And there are dedicated gallery spaces for photography where you can kind of have your work on display in the way that you want it to be displayed. These are incredibly important occasions in terms of getting people to look at your work, talking about your work, and beginning to develop your own network. Next slide, please. And these are, yes, the transferable skills that I know that a number of previous speakers have spoken about already. Naomi Baker is one of our star graduates who has now become a sports photographer. She was there at the Tokyo Olympics in 2020. And more recently, she was photographing the Women's Euro Cup final in 2022. So she has gone on to really create a very kind of successful career as a sports photographer. And many of our graduates also have developed career paths in documentary photography, fashion photography, and a wide range of careers. But when I say it's not always photography, some people, like I've said, are interested in advertising, fashion, editorial. Others go into more gallery curation, art buying. Some continue to do further studies, master's, PhD. And there's also the sort of digital imaging side that is now developing a lot of kind of areas for growth in employability. So retouching, post-production, digital imaging, these are all kind of other career paths that could, you could develop after leaving. So yes, there's also the documentary fine art visual artist photographer as well. Which, is again another opportunity to develop a more sort of fine art voice when it comes to photography. Next slide, please. That's me done. This was a graduate who, sorry, can I just go back to that last slide? I just wanted to talk about Matt Strange, who made a body of work looking at tribute bands, so people that pretended to be Elvis or whoever. And so he kind of went around the country with his sort of portable studio, photographing, the Rolling Stones and various other kind of celebrities that weren't quite the celebrities. But yes, please ask some questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Miranda. Really useful and inspiring information. I think I would enjoy studying photography because I never stop taking pictures. Thank you to all of our academics for really great presentations, and lots and lots of information was shared with our partners and students in attendance. So if I can just invite everyone to please start sharing your questions within Q&A section, that would be amazing, and we can pick it up from there. I guess I'll kick it off by asking in regards with portfolio requirements for your relevant programs, and whether there is anything specific you wanted to highlight for students submitting portfolio for your courses. Maybe there are any additions, any additional interviews involved as a part of application process. Shall we start with Panos?
Sorry, you're talking about the portfolio requirements? Or?
Yes.
We don't
if any.
we don't do interviews. In terms of portfolio, anything that demonstrates a wide range of skills is useful. Something which involves working in the box, so working with a digital audio workstation, be it Logic, Cubase, or any program, or if it's a recording of a live performance, if it's a performance, if it's a commercial music, or if it's the BA music, a recording of a performance would be useful. Could I continue with the other one? Or are we staying with this question?
We're staying with this question. We just go around the table, if that's okay. Okay, Andy, would you like to mention anything?
I think, again, there's no audition or interview for the performing arts degree, but certainly when people put in their personal statements, as Panos said, just give an indication of the experience of performance or production work that has been had to date. That's the best thing to do. We look at all of the personal statements. We try and respond to all of those personal statements as well. But the thinking is that if you have the qualifications in a related subject to performing arts, musical theatre, or theatre production, then that gets you the offer. But again, try to flesh out your application with as much indication of the sorts of work that you have done, the sorts of experience you have had to date in that area would be the most helpful.
Thank you, Andy. And just to clarify here, so for your programs, would you suggest that students would have to have a relevant background, or it's not compulsory?
I would say for performing arts, musical theatre, then performance experience is going to be really important, I think, yes. For the theatre production degree, having some understanding of a bit of lighting and of a bit of sound to have some kind of experience, or you may have been part of maybe a local drama company where you've given stage management a bit of a go, or maybe you've helped with the costuming, you know, anything like that where you can start to demonstrate a bit of an understanding about the process of performance and production is going to help your application.
Excellent, thank you. Dr. Allen?
Hi, yeah, great question. Okay, so from a games design perspective, games design is interesting as a discipline because it's perhaps the most challenging interdisciplinary kind of art form at the moment. You have to be competent at programming at times, at art, at idea generation, at negotiation, and it's a practical subject. So you have to be making stuff as well. So we get lots and lots of applications, and you know, as colleagues have said, ultimately, what is critical is that students have the requisite qualifications, but we pay a great deal of attention to the personal statements. And what isn't good enough from our perspective is personal statements that say things like, I love games, therefore I want to make them. So what we want to know is that, you know, when you're 3 weeks into a project and it isn't going well, and you've submitted a load of work and people from industry have said that it doesn't do what you want it to do, how are you then going to keep going? So what we want to hear is not just that people love games, but that they make things and they understand that it's a demanding commercial industry. So we have rejected applicants in the past that their personal statements haven't reflected that. And I would encourage people in the absence of a requirement for portfolio, to ensure that they understand what the actual task is that they're signing up to. These are challenging, active degrees of study. So, yeah, so for me, it's about making sure that you understand that this is about making things, and it gets tough. We'll support you, but yeah, it gets tough.
Thank you, Miranda.
Yes, so we don't either interview, but we are looking for the personal statement to sort of demonstrate passion for photography, and an ability to some extent in photography, so that they are looking and they're responding to their environment, and that could be that they have entered competitions. There's been a series of images that they were pleased with on a former qualification that was, it could be photography, or it could be sort of visual communication qualification where they were particularly pleased with a certain series of images. So yes, we would be looking for candidates that were showing a real visual interest in photography, and that can be sort of also communicated by looking specifically at certain techniques, noticing the way shadows fall, the way other photographers photograph things that they like in a certain way, just those sort of quite, those details, because if you're looking and you're passionate about what you're looking at, those are the sorts of things that you begin to notice and you begin to want to learn how to do. So yeah, I think that's what we're looking for.
That's really useful. Thank you so much. All right, I can see, Panos, you would like to answer the next question in regards with the practical workshops and studios for music programs.
Yes, of course there are. We are style agnostic, but there are styles out there and we need to know them. So there are lots of types of workshops. There are ensembles which always run with a specific style in focus or a specific band in focus. So this year's ensemble was Steely Dan ensemble. Last year it was Wolfbeck. Generally, it's a choice that combines something which is interesting musically, but also quite interesting at the time that we are the time of choice, basically. So Wolfbeck have been a band who've been amazing live and have had a lot of views. In terms of production or classical music, of course, there are specific styles. So we look at sort of there's a choir workshops. There are writing workshops in terms of how you write notation specific instruments, and then you would have. We've had this year, for example, a producer who was the person who's recently produced a number of bands, including Queens of the Stone Age, U2, he was actually a winner of the Producers Guild competition last year, who came and did a workshop for two groups of students, and they recorded together with the sessional lecturer. So yes, we do have very specific style workshops, and we do focus in specific things. And if there's a group of students that require a style that we haven't addressed, we make sure that we work towards that, and we bring a specialist if we can. So yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's really, really useful to know. Okay, I can see there are questions in regards with entry criteria or specific qualifications. Considering that we have an audience from various countries, obviously, it depends where you come from. So you would need to check with your advisor or educational agency that you're in touch with, or my team on the ground can support you too. We do accept certain qualifications, like I can see Wyke mentioned for Canterbury Christchurch University admission, but also the university accepts a number of various qualifications for academic entry, but also as a proof of English. So for example, not long ago, additional board in India, like Kerala board, was added to be accepted as a proof of English if you achieve 70%. On top of that, the university also accepts a number of English tests. So it's not only IELTS. IELTS is obviously a popular option, but there's also Pearson. There are tests like Oxford International, which can be taken online, or language cert as well. So please do check with your relevant advisor to look into your specific case and can take it from there. Also a reminder, in case if you haven't submitted your outstanding documents, we do recommend to do so at the soonest, because the volume of applications is increasing day by day. So really don't want you to miss out on a great opportunity to study at Canterbury Christchurch University. Are limited, and so our customers. So we want to make sure all of you secure cars as soon as possible, because as soon as you receive your cars, you can apply for your visa to come and study in the UK 6 months prior to the start date. And the sooner you do so, the better it is for you, because you will avoid any summer madness as it happens. Currently, visas are being issued within 3-4 weeks at a regular service, but obviously in summer you may have to pay more for the premium service to receive your visa a bit quicker. So we do encourage to book it at the soonest. And again, a reminder, please, when you are arranging your cash deposit to Canterbury Christchurch University, don't forget to use Canterbury Christchurch University ID specified within your unconditional offer letter. So not any other ID, but that specific ID within your unconditional offer letter. So please don't proceed with your payment until you've received your unconditional offer letter, because we don't want you to have any issues with a payment allocation as well. And once you've received your cards, don't forget to start arranging accommodation booking as well, because like spaces at the university, accommodation spaces are also limited. So we want to ensure you have beautiful accommodation, which we talked about in our previous webinars as well. If you're still unsure, please reach out to my team. They will be happy to advise on that. They get booked really, really quickly. And it's only £100 deposit, which is refundable in case of visa refusal. But so far, we had very, very close to 100% visa success rate. So it shouldn't really be any issues. Stephen, did you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, just to reiterate your point, Gina, about making sure that students get their applications in early, get your finances in order and get your CAS processes sorted so you can apply for your visas. There is an added benefit to getting that all done early over the next 6 weeks. Obviously, universities send out a majority of their communications during the summer. So you want to make sure that you've got everything in place so that you are invited, engaged within our online communities, you're inside our Facebook groups, you're getting our Instagram updates, etc. All of the transition and orientation information, bus transfers from airports, all of that stuff is communicated once you hold your UF offer and you've got your CAS all sorted. So it's really important to make sure you are getting that sorted. It feels very much like we're coming to a close, so I just wanted to take this opportunity from my point of view to thank my colleagues from Canterbury Christchurch University. I know I shouldn't say this, but every parent has a favourite, and within my university, the School of Creative Industries is one of my favourites. I'm going to leave the one of mine there, just in case this is recorded and the business team watch it by accident and I get in trouble, because obviously they're also up there in the lights. For your contributions. It was an absolutely fantastic webinar, and I love seeing the colours and the information and the engagement with your student communities. I know the UK HEI industry struggled in committing to creative arts over the last few years, and there's been somewhat political agenda against it, and I think it's a credit to our institution. But not only do we commit to the arts at Canterbury Christchurch, both locally, nationally and internationally, but we've got such a plethora of talent in our academic teams as well. It really does.
This webinar personally, and I'm sure all of our attendees benefited a lot from the information shared today. So thank you so much. And we will be sharing a recording and presentation from today's webinar too. I can see there is last question. I think Panas was really keen to answer. Panas, would you like to take it in regards with musical careers?
Yes, no, just very briefly. This gives me also an opportunity to reiterate what my colleague Miranda said, which is that all people who actually teach in the creative industry school actually are all most of us practitioners, and we do our own stuff. So with regards to global musical careers, the example is that a lot of us do this. So I'm a producer, I work internationally, and I compose music is played across Europe and the US. I'm going on tour with my band in a few weeks in France. We have a member of staff who teach the director of the commercial music course, who in a few weeks will be on tour in the US with members of Radiohead with the band Smile. So these people bring the global experience and networks, but at the same time we have a module called Working in Music, and within that module we bring people from our networks in to talk about how they reached that point and what steps they had to take in order to develop a career. So people in the course do really get a lot of examples of how they continue their journey from year 3 onwards.
Excellent. That is really, really helpful to know. Thank you so much, and good luck with your tour. Sounds really, really exciting. Excellent. Thank you so much to academics. Thank you, Stephen, and thank you to our marketing team for help with the webinar. And we can't wait to welcome students in Canterbury Christchurch University. If you are a student or if you are our partner, please don't forget to submit students' applications and outstanding documents as soon as possible. And we'll see you at the next webinar for Canterbury Christchurch University. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll speak soon. Bye-bye.
Are we good to go?
Yeah, I think so. No?
I don't know.
Yeah, we're closing.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.